Hello Bio 2, we're continuing on with Section 2. The section was titled Seed Development and Germination. Today we're going to focus on the germination portion. So we're going to start in first with a topic called seed dormancy. So seed dormancy is kind of described by saying first that many seeds will not grow when they first mature. So that's saying that just because a seed forms and is ready to grow doesn't mean it will always grow. These seeds enter a period of dormancy during which the embryo is alive but not growing. So dormancy can almost be described as like seed hibernation. They are still alive, but they've kind of put a halt on everything, and they're not necessarily going to grow, and that's going to kind of just depend on some different factors, which we'll talk about in a second. And the length of the dormancy varies in different plant species. So not all plants do the same things, again, because they don't all have the same needs. So we're going to talk about some different factors that might influence dormancy. And look at there, what flowers influence the dormancy and germination of seeds. So environmental factors such as temperature and moisture can cause a seed to end dormancy and germinate. So that's just saying that, let's say a seed gets dispersed in the middle of summer and there's not enough nutrients, there's not enough water around for it to grow, so it's going to go dormant until those rains come, until the temperature kind of eases up a little bit, and then it'll start to grow or germinate. And then it can be adaptive in several ways, meaning that it kind of can adapt to what the plant needs. So I'd probably just explain this. So it allows for long distance dispersal. So the plant has an adaptation for long distance dispersal, meaning that it won't germinate until it's kind of been moved to where it needs to be. And this also allowed seeds to germinate under ideal growth conditions, again, waiting for the heat to pass, waiting for the rain to come, things like that. And so then after dormancy occurs, and you've heard the term germination. I don't know if we've officially defined this, but here it is. So seed germination is just the early growth stage of the plant embryo. So this is our first real growth of the actual plant. So when seeds germinate, they absorb water, which causes food-storing tissues to swell and crack open the seed coat. So that is it, kind of coming out of its seed, and then the young root grows through the cracked seed coat as well. So our first thing is the tissues, they swell and they crack open the seed coat, and then our young root will grow through that cracked seed coat. And then in most monocots, our single cotyledon remains underground, and then the growing shoot, so I don't know if we've officially defined shoot yet either, but this is just kind of a term used to describe the young plant. The first little part that emerges and grows out is our shoot. And it emerges while protected by what is known as a sheath. And so what that looks like, as we can see here, we have our seed. It's swelled up, the tissues inside it cracked the seed coat, so we have our root growing out. As you can see, it's barely coming out there. And then we have a big primary root down here. And then we have our young shoot, which is just, again, our little individual, our first little seedling almost, if you will. And then we can see here when it's fully developed, as you can see, if you didn't look down at the bottom, that's corn. I think if we were not able to recognize that around here, then you've probably never been outside. So that's what the corn looks like. And that is in monocots. So you can see our cotyledon is going to remain underground the entire time. Our original, and if you remember, cotyledon means our seed leaf. So that's just what that is. So that remains underground. However, in dicots, germination takes place in one of two ways. So in some species, the cotyledons, they emerge above ground, protecting the stem and first foliage leaves. So a foliage leaf is just an early leaf. And so the cotyledons, sometimes they'll come above ground and they'll serve as protection. However, in other species, they stay underground and they provide a food source for the growing seedling. So that's kind of an interesting adaptation. They'll almost provide some food for for the growing plants. You can see here's an example. We have a bean as a dicot. You can see we have the germinating seed. We have our primary root coming out of there. We have our cotyledons and our seed coat. You can see it's being cracked open there. And then it emerges above the ground. Obviously the bean is an example where the cotyledons come up and protect our growing foliage leaves, which are just our first early leaves right there. And that is kind of just what they didn't give a picture of of the plants staying below ground, but just know that that is an option as well. Remember, our cotyledons are our original seed leaves, and they're what distinguish the monocots from the dicots. So that is it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions.